Hey, what's happening, YouTubers? We're back with a brand new action figure review, or I should say action figures review, but we're going to take a look at the new Hasbro Marvel Legends Thor Love and Thunder Korg Build-A-Figure Wave. Now, shout-outs to MCU Collector and Toy Shiz for posting this up on their story, because these did go live at midnight on the 26th, because as y'all may know, there have been some reviews out there already, because this was leaked early at Walmart, or released early from Walmart, and then they got street dated till the 26th, so we were finally able to order them, and some of them places, like I predicted, had them in stock, and Amazon was one of them, and I think some of them now are back ordered, so I was able to get all 7 in just in time within the Prime shipping window, because they were able to ship it overnight, which is great. But I figure why not just do a review of the entire wave in this review. So we're going to start with Ravager Thor first. Alright, so here's Ravager Thor in his box, the Thor Love and Thunder font in the front, side of the packaging, the image, or digital image, concept art, whatever you want to call it, of Thor. And then on the back, another image of Ravager Thor. And then the bio at the top reads, Thor wields the mighty Stormbreaker against a terrifying new foe. So obviously not a lot of information given on there. Typically with MCU figures, you don't really see that much in the description because they don't want to give too much away, or you know, sometimes Hasbro just doesn't even have the information given to them because Marvel now likes to keep everything kind of tight-knit. All right, enough about that. Let's get Ravager Thor out of the box. All right, here's Ravager Thor out of the box, and let's take a look at his 2 accessories that he comes with. The first piece we're going to take a look at is the Build-A-Figure piece for Korg. So he comes with the right arm. Oh, no, sorry, the left arm. Then, of course, he comes with Stormbreaker, which was originally released with, I think, the Bro Thor Build-A-Figure wave, because the OG one had the concept art design. To be honest with you, I prefer that one over this, but it's the same Stormbreaker we've seen before. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and we'll get started with the head sculpt. And I'll be honest with y'all, I have seen some reviews, and people say this head sculpt is great. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not impressed with it at all. I understand they're using the photo real tech, and there is some resemblance to Chris Hemsworth in there on the sculpt, but honestly, it just misses the mark for me. I don't know what it is. Like, if we look closely, like, yeah, you can kind of see his likeness in there, but it's just something oddly shaped about his face. The hair is sculpted well, because, I mean, we see him with this look in the trailer, and then you see a little bun tied in the back, a little ponytail, so the hair is sculpted well. The face could have been a little bit better, and the reason why I'm giving a little bit of harsh criticism on the head sculpt is because I'm putting Hasbro a little bit higher standard, because they've done such a fantastic job with their photo real tech on, like, this Iron Man, for example. Like, that's Robert Downey to a T. Even the Endgame Thor, like, that head sculpt looks fantastic. So I'm holding them to a higher standard because I know Hasbro can produce almost like top tier photo real tech quality, like where the actor's likeness is definitely there. Whereas this one, I don't know what it is. It kind of falls short. Like, yes, I could see Chris Hemsworth, just not as well as I could see the actor's likeness on these other figures. Now, having said all of that, though, I'm not going to let it take away from the actual figure itself. This looks amazing. Now, he's called Ravager Thor because, as we saw at the end of Endgame, he was going away. He was flying away with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'd like to think he became part of the Ravagers, like with Kraglin and all of them. And then also when we take a look at the suit, like, it looks like a very Guardians-esque outfit, or Ravager, I should say. He does have pinless double-jointed elbows and pinless double-jointed knees, but overall it looks really nice. And I don't know if it's been mentioned before, but these little yellow straps are reminiscent of his Thor comic book counterpart. Like, I thought that's pretty cool. It's a nice touch. I just noticed that right now. And you can see the detail on his tank top right there. Like, that looks amazing. I like the vest. If we look at the back, it's got kind of like this silver chain dot. I'm not sure what that is, design on there. The more I look at him, he kind of looks like Hacksaw Jim Duggan mixed with like Chris Jericho / Edge. I don't know. I'm being a little too critical. I think it does look like Chris Hemsworth, just not as well we've seen other figures of them Hasbro's made with photo real tech. Now, I'm not going to go too much in articulation, but it's standard, has double jointed elbows, double jointed knees, so I'm not going to delve into that. The only thing I thought that this was, I thought this was a diaphragm cut, but it looks like it's just an ab crunch. It's a nice figure overall, but in my opinion, this Ravager Thor figure shouldn't have included Stormbreaker. And the reason why I say that is because Stormbreaker already comes with the armored Thor. So if you're expecting the customer to buy the entire wave, why would you have 2 Stormbreakers? I understand it's to pose with this Thor, but I would have foregone the additional Stormbreaker if it meant getting more accessories for the figure, like additional hand sculpts or additional head sculpts as well. Because as it stands out right now, he only has 2 hand sculpts, and both of them are meant for wielding Stormbreaker. All right, let's take a look at Star-Lord next. So there's Star-Lord on the front of the packaging. On the side of the packaging, you see the digital artwork or render of Star-Lord. And then on the back, you see the full image artwork of him. And the little bio says, Peter Quill and the Guardians of the Galaxy return, teaming up with friends new and old to defend the galaxy from a dangerous new enemy. Not really much description. I think all of these are going to be pretty vague. I'm not sure how much involvement the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to have in the new Thor movie, but I'm curious to see it play out. What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's get Star-Lord out of the box. All right, here's Star-Lord out of the box. Let's take a look at his accessories first. So he comes with the two blasters that we've seen before. Now when it comes to the BAF piece, he comes with the right arm of Korg. Now let's take a look at the figure itself. And first things first, we're going to take a look at the head sculpt. And it's interesting, this has been getting like memed out or like shown on different community pages on Facebook, like the Marvel Legends one, that this looks more like Kurt Russell than it does Chris Pratt, which would make sense because Kurt Russell was his dad Ego in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. But when looking at the head sculpt, yeah, I can see what they mean. In certain angles, I can see Chris Pratt, but this is one of those head sculpt that leave much to be desired. Like, it could have been a little bit better than this. But when take a look at the rest of the figure, you do see it's pinless on the arms. However, when it gets to the legs, they're still using the pin technology. In terms of articulation, he does have a diaphragm cut. Oh no, okay, sorry. Looks like it's a rubber overlay that's hanging over his chest piece, but I'd imagine it's either the ab crunch or the diaphragm cut. But when looking at the rest of the figure, like, I'm not a fan of his jacket look. Even in the Guardians 2, I just wasn't a fan of it. I prefer the short jacket better. But anyways, when looking at the details of the figure, I like the gold paint application on there and on his gauntlets. Then I like the sculpting of the cape throughout as well. Not the cape, sorry, the trench coat, my bad. Of the trench coat. So overall, not a bad figure. It's just that head sculpt could have been a little bit better. To be honest, he looks like the kid from Home Improvement. I'm trying to remember what his name was. All right, now let's take a look at Groot next. So you see the image artwork of Thor Love and Thunder font, the figure right there. And then on the side, you see the image of Groot. I think he's still in his teenage form. Then on the back, there he is again. And then honestly, the only thing that says on his bio is, I am Groot, in different languages. That's it. That's the only thing on the bio. All right, that's enough about the box. All right, let's go and get Groot out of the packaging. All right, here's Groot out of the box. Let's take a look at his accessories first. So as you can see, he comes with the torso of Korg for the Build-A-Figure piece, and then he also comes with this gun. I'm not sure if this is a reuse from the Marvel Legends one, like the Rocket Raccoon figure, because I don't have that anymore. I actually have the Hero Vision basic figure, and this is the weapon that came with Rocket Raccoon. So as you can see, they look completely different. But if this is a reuse from the Marvel Legends one, let me know in the comments below. And then, as you can see, he comes with an additional hand sculpt for his right hand, and then he also has these are interchangeable hands as well. And it's pretty interesting because I think I might reuse this one to recreate that scene in Infinity War when Groot was making Stormbreaker, because that's pretty interesting. And the cool thing is, when you look in closely here, there's actually like a hinge, so you can actually move this up and down, which is, it's pretty neat. They could have easily just put a sculpted piece like that, but the fact that they gave it some articulation is pretty nice. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and if we zoom in closely, you can see that Hasbro Frodo Realtek. It looks exactly like Vin Diesel. No, I'm just kidding. It looks better than Vin Diesel. This is so well detailed. I like the sculpt, and I like the little detail right here where he's got the little plants growing out of his head. That's pretty interesting. I think this is essentially just a re-release or a redeco of the one that came in the 3-pack with Rocket Raccoon and Thor. I think it was the Infinity War 3-pack. It might have been a Toys R Us exclusive, if I remember correctly, but it was right around the time Toys R Us closed, so I never really got a chance to pick this up, which is why I ended up picking up the basic figure version. So it's cool on Hasbro's part to re-release this essentially with this Thor wave, and also because he is going to have a presence in the Thor movie, so it only makes sense to add him in here. The only thing I would have wished they added in this wave as well was Nebula, but this is interesting. When I'm comparing it to the basic figure, I mean, obviously, the Marvel Legends has more detail, but I wouldn't expect the basic figure to be the same height as the Marvel Legends version, so that's pretty interesting to see. But when looking at them closely, it looks like the Marvel Legends kind of has like a glossier finish, whereas the basic figure has sort of a muted brown. I prefer this, actually, in terms of the brown. I think this color looks better than the Marvel Legends version. Obviously, the Legends is going to have a better articulation portion, but I do like this shade of brown better than this one. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. All right, next we're going to take a look at Gore the God Butcher, and I'm hyped to get this figure in hand because I've already seen Unparalleled Universe's review, and it seems like a really dope figure. I know there's some criticism about the way he looks. I don't care. We're getting a Christian Bale figure, and just looking at it right now, the likeness is on point to Christian Bale. But let's start with the box art. On the side of the box, you see the image of Drax the Destroyer. I'm just kidding. He does kind of look like Drax the Destroyer in my opinion. But you see the image of Gore right there. On the back, you see the same exact image, and then the bio reads, "Wielding a strange and terrifying weapon, Gore will let nothing stand in his way." Again, very discreet and nothing descriptive that alludes to the movie, but we all know from the comics, or you probably already seen, that Gore the God Butcher is just that. He just kills gods. Anyways, enough about all that. Let's go and get Gore out of the box. All right, here's Gore out of the box. Let's take a look at his accessories first. So as you can see, he comes with the right leg of Korg for the Build-A-Figure piece, and then he also comes with the Necro Sword. Now this is surreal for me to see. We're going to have the Necro Sword in the MCU. Take a look at the sword. You can see all the intricate details right there on the blade itself, the little pattern right there on the handle. So I like the sculpting of the sword overall. This was pretty cool. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and if we zoom in closely here, we're going to take a look at the head sculpt first, and man, that is Christian Bale. Like, the likeness is so spot on, and this is what I meant earlier when I was being a little harsh on this Ravager Thor figure, is because Hasbro has the potential to do stuff like this, where the likeness is uncanny. Like, that is Christian Bale. You can see his likeness through there. He kind of looks like a skinny, pale version of Drax, actually, with this, like, pattern on his head. Looks like it's scarring, which is, like, pretty sick. Like, that's surreal to see. Like, they did a fantastic job, like, adding these sculpting and details throughout his head, and it goes on to his neck as well, and his arms. Like, this is pretty freaking cool. It looks like just Christian Bale regularly method acting right now. Like, he's like a malnourished, like, fighter or something like that. But this is awesome to see. Like, I gotta give kudos to Hasbro for the sculpting work on this. Now, I will say this though, in terms of articulation, it's okay. It has the same waist as the Doctor Doom figure. Like, there's a little ball hinge at the bottom, so you can rotate him like that. He does have double-jointed pinless elbows and double-jointed pinless knees as well. So as I mentioned earlier, it seems like all of the MCU stuff are getting the pinless technology, except for Star-Lord, who didn't have pinless legs. It's all good. But in terms of, like, standing this figure up, he is a little bottom-heavy, which is good to, like, stand the figure up straight, but you're not going to get so much range of movement on here just because this skirt piece is kind of hindering the articulation. So you're going to kind of run into stuff like you had with the Eternals figures in terms of the lower half of the body. What I'm planning on doing is, since there's no peg on this cape, you can just remove it like that. It's easy to remove, so it just wobbles around. But what I'm planning on doing is putting a black hooded soft goods cape on him, so he kind of looks a little bit closer to his comic counterpart. Now, before I do that, I just wanted y'all to take a look at this figure. Like, it just looks like one of those, like, lost prophets. Like, it's insane, like, this look of Christian Bale. I can't wait to see his portrayal of Gore the God Butcher on the big screen. It makes me that much more hyped for the movie, seeing this figure. By the way, y'all, sorry if you can hear, like, a leaf blower or a lawnmower going off. They're doing some landscaping outside my house. And I can already hear the jokes already. He looks like a Sith Lord. He looks like Voldemort. Well, touche, but in the comics, Gore actually does look like Voldemort. He's missing his nose and all that crap. But I'm going to work around this. Like, I'm going to do some more poses and try and fix it up a little bit. I just wanted y'all to get an idea of what I was going to try and work on with this soft goods cape. I might put this back underneath it. I'm not sure yet, but I feel like that'd be conflicting. But yeah, I'll work on this. Now, in terms of my thoughts of this figure, it's awesome in terms of the head sculpt. Like that, like I said, that is Christian Bale. However, I am going to give some criticism. I feel like there should have been at least another additional set of hands, or perhaps an additional head sculpt, like of him screaming or something like that. But, I mean, I can't get too critical of this figure just because it looks amazing. I just wish you probably would have had maybe another set of hands or an additional head sculpt. All right, next we're going to take a look at King Valkyrie. And on the front of the box, you see the figure. On the side of the packaging, you see the artwork of King Valkyrie. And then on the back, you see that full image artwork of King Valkyrie. And then the read-up or info says, when a dangerous new visitor threatens the livelihood of New Asgard, King Valkyrie is forced to take up her sword once more to defend her people. All right, very specific to the plot. Enough about that. Let's go and take Valkyrie out of the box. All right, here's King Valkyrie out of the box. Let's take a look at the accessories first. So the Build-A-Figure piece she comes with is Korg's head, as you can see right here. And then also comes with his weapon as well. And then after that, there's only just one accessory, and it's her sword right here, which I believe we've seen this before with the Valkyrie figure from the Bro Thor Build-A-Figure wave. And if we zoom in closely, it doesn't have the sheath this time. It's just the sword, unless the sheath is... No, doesn't come with her. So, just the sword itself. All right, now let's take a look at the King Valkyrie figure. And when we zoom in and take a look at the head sculpt, that looks exactly like Tessa Thompson, in my opinion. Like, the likeness is definitely there. The photoreal tech's on point. When I initially saw these figures being leaked, I was like, No, I mean, I like the figure. It's just I think the likeness is better on the other Valkyrie figure. But now that I see this one and compare it side by side with the other Valkyrie figure, I mean, this one's good, don't get me wrong, but I think this one's way better. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Maybe I'll throw a poll up on Instagram and ask them, which one they think is better. But I think the King Valkyrie one's pretty good. Now, in terms of scale and size, obviously, the new King Valkyrie figure is a little bit shorter than the previous one, but this one has something that this doesn't. As you can see, double jointed elbows, and they're pinless too. So pinless female double jointed elbows on an MCU figure, that's awesome. We've seen that before, I believe, with the Captain Carter figure, and I think there's another one I'm missing right now, but that's awesome to see the pinless double jointed elbows. And in a lot of ways, I think we can thank Shartimus Prime for that. If you haven't seen, there is a video out there when he interviewed the Hasbro Marvel Legends team. I think it was in 2016, and he brought a Harley Quinn figure that had pinless double jointed elbows. Or I think double jointed elbows, not pinless, but they were double jointed. But that's awesome to see that implemented in here. I do like the sculpting of her outfit and her suit. It looks awesome. If we zoom in closely, you can see like there's this textured pattern right there. I'm not sure if that's like a Valkyrie symbol or something, but that looks really interesting. But overall, yeah, I like this figure a lot. I like the way the hair is sculpted as well. Like, just look at the attention to detail. You see like the blue braids in there. That's amazing. Like, that is awesome paintwork and awesome texture on the sculpt of her hair. Man, this figure might be my favorite one of the wave so far. All right, next we're going to take a look at Thor. And on the side of the packaging, you see the image artwork of, like, armored Thor. I guess that's what he is. He's in his Asgardian armor. And then on the back, you see the full image artwork of it with the info reading, Thor unleashes the power of Stormbreaker to overcome any foe. And I wish I could just get a compilation of everyone's info on this figure wave, because it's literally like the most generic stuff ever. But I understand. We buy this not for the bio or info. We buy it for the figures. So having said that, let's go get Thor out of the box. All right, here's Thor out of the box. Let's take a look at his accessories first. I do want to mention he's the one figure in the wave that doesn't come with a Build-A-Figure piece for Korg. So it's just his accessories. And the first accessory is going to be Stormbreaker. And then the other one is going to be an additional hand sculpt. It's a right-handed fist. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and we're going to start with the head sculpt. And like I mentioned before in that 6-inch deluxe Thor figure, I'm not a fan of this look for Thor, but I'll make an exception because post, like I would say, Phase 3 era Thor, I was a huge fan of, especially in Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame. I've loved the turnover on his arc. I like what they've done with Thor in the MCU, so anything Thor, I'm all in for. Even though, like, this kind of looks like a Asgardian Wolverine helmet. But I know this is something from the comics, but just because it was from the comics doesn't mean it needed to be made into the movie. But we don't know yet. This could have just well as be concept art for all we know. But I do appreciate the metallic finish on his armor and the head sculpt. You can see Chris Evans or Chris Hemsworth likeness in there. It just looks like he's cross-eyed. And if we see the sculpting of his hair being blown, it looks pretty nice. And the sculpting around his helmet just looks nice as well overall. And we'll take a look at the rest of the figure. I do like this Asgardian armor design. Not too crazy about the colors, but I do love the design of it. And then when we look at the chain armor on his arm, it looks like it is a reuse because it's still using the pins. I think this is from the Infinity War Thor. Either that or from the Thor Dark World. But I'm pretty sure it's the Infinity War one. And then the cape, I did see MCU Collector's review on this, and he was right. I do like the sculpting of the cape because it's not like one of those heavy capes that'll drape or make the figure drape back because of how heavy it is. It's pretty light plastic, so this is pretty cool to see. And then when looking at the detail of the rest of the figure, I do love the sculpting right here. And then it is using pinless double jointed knees, but not pinless on the arms, and I'm guessing just because for budget purposes they had to reuse this arm, which I understand, and I'm fine with just because the pins aren't different colors so it doesn't stand out like some other ones we've seen before. And then also the metallic finish I like on this outfit, it kind of reminiscent of the Eternals figures. I do like this figure, even though I'm not a huge fan of that helmet design. I do like it, but I just wish we would have gotten 2 fisted hands and then 1 gripping hand for Stormbreaker on his left hand. That way we don't have to just use the right arm or the right hand of Thor to hold Stormbreaker. He can use it on both. And just to kind of do some size comparisons, here he is standing next to the Thor from Thor Dark World 2-pack with Lady Sif, and then my favorite iteration of Thor, Thor from Infinity War. And as you can see, what I was talking about with the cape is that this one's pretty heavy. As you can see, he's kind of leaning backwards because of how heavy it is, whereas this one, it's using a lighter, thinner plastic material, but still looks nice aesthetically. And just further proving what I was talking about earlier, it looks like it is reusing the same arm from the Infinity War Thor, not the Dark World one, just because you can see right here, it's kind of like a flat chain armor, whereas the Thor Dark World one is a higher sculpted one. And now for another size comparison, here he is sitting next to the one I've just recently reviewed, like a retro review, the movie series Thor with the helmet from Thor 1. And let me know in the thoughts and comments below, what do you think looks better, the helmet look from Thor 1 or the helmeted look from Thor Love and Thunder? I'm wondering if a head swap would work between these two Thor figures right here, so pop that off and then pop this off and yeah, it works. So you could use the Thor head sculpt from the Dark World figure on the new one and vice versa. That just looks out of place now, but yeah, I guess that kind of works. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Well, I guess at certain angles it could work, but I guess it just doesn't make sense with, I mean, aesthetics and stylized. It probably looks better just putting the other helmet back on there, but it looks like it works. Last but certainly not least, we're going to take a look at the Mighty Thor figure. So on the side of the box, you see the image of Mighty Thor. On the back is the full image artwork of Mighty Thor. And now the info reads, Jane Foster's life is forever changed when she mysteriously comes to possess the hammer Mjolnir and the power of the Mighty Thor. Again, it is what it is. But I do like the image artwork of Jane Foster's Thor. But enough about the box art. Let's go ahead and get Jane Foster's Mighty Thor out of the box. All right, here's Mighty Thor out of the box. Let's take a look at her accessories first. So she comes with the left leg of Korg for the Build-A-Figure. And then she comes with additional head sculpt. So the one on there now is the unmasked version, and it's Jane Foster. And if we zoom in closely, here is the helmeted version, and you can kind of see Natalie Portman's likeness on there. I think this is a fantastic head sculpt. It's as close as the comics as we're going to get, and that's pretty impressive, actually. I do like the detailing right here and the sculpting throughout the helmet. I love that silver metallic finish. And then the face sculpt, like I mentioned, is pretty good. You can kind of see Natalie Portman's likeness in there. All right, next we're going to take a look at Mjolnir, and I think this is a brand new sculpt for Mjolnir because it seems like bigger than the other hammers we've gotten before, but you can see the nice attention to detail where the hammer was destroyed by Hela and put back together. I'm curious to see how they're going to put this back together in the movie. Is it Eitri the Dwarf, or does it mysteriously or magically come back together? But as you can see, it's entirely new sculpting. There's the handle right there, so they have the paint accents right there, the silver ones, which is really nice. And there's a little strap at the end. But yeah, this is a way bigger Mjolnir than the other ones. Let me go grab the Captain America one to kind of compare. And yeah, just to kind of compare, the one right here is the one that came with the Worthy Cap, and this is the new one with the Mighty Thor. But yeah, it's way bigger than the OG one, and even the handle is longer too. And the cool thing about this is, like I mentioned, the handle has the silver paints right there, whereas this one had the sculpt, but it was missing the paint application, so they definitely improved on it. All right, now let's take a look at the figure itself, and if we look in closely, this is the unmasked version. So to me, I think that likeness is pretty good to Natalie Portman. It's pretty spot on, and I'm like tripping, but if you zoom in closely, like I can't believe it, you can actually see they painted the mole on her right cheek. So that's crazy. So that's a nice attention to detail from Hasbro's Photoreal Tech. It's much better than the ones we've seen from the Star Wars Black series, because I think the Padme one looked awful. It looked nothing like Natalie Portman, whereas this one, you can definitely see the resemblance. I'm not sure, maybe in the movie she's going to have blonde hair, because originally in the other movies, her hair isn't this light. But again, the likeness is definitely there. And then when looking at the rest of the figure, I love that we have the double-jointed pinless arms on here. That's awesome. Also pinless technology on the knees as well. So this thing just looks fantastic. It is very close to what we see in the source material from the comics, so kudos to the MCU for essentially bringing this comic book character to life. When looking at the rest of the figure, like, her outfit reminds me of another figure, and another Asgardian actually, Lady Sif. Like, the color scheme is similar to me, and this is what I meant by the double-jointed pinless elbows. Like, this figure could have definitely used the pinless technology, because this figure I think was released in 2019. But this definitely would have benefited from double jointed elbows. But it was still nice to see Lady Sif figure being made. Hopefully we'll see her return in Thor Love and Thunder. And in terms of scaling, I think that works well, because I believe the actress Jamie Alexander, if that's correct, I think, she's taller than Natalie Portman, so the scaling is definitely there. All right, here's all 7 figures in the wave standing next to each other. And as you can see, I removed that plastic cape that was on Gore and put on this fabric one. I'm going to fix it up a little bit so he just looks a little bit more of the comic material, but I have a dope photo idea in the works for this figure, so stay tuned on my Instagram for that. And when we look at the Build-A-Figure, it's going to be Korg, and I'm going to be totally honest with you, I am not a fan of this Build-A-Figure. And the reason why is, as you can see, the way I have him posed right now is his legs are like that. I've seen MCU collectors review, and I've seen other people's. I think it's just a defect with this figure, but as you can see, his legs do not close in. They're just... by default, they're just like that. You can heat it up or whatever you want, but I think it's just a defect where it just naturally just goes like that. So he can't really stand up straight because you'll see his legs are just like... So that's why I had him in that pose. So in terms of the Build-A-Figure, I'm not really impressed with it. I do like the design of Korg. I am a fan of Korg's character in the MCU, and I also liked Korg in the Planet Hulk storyline because that was my first introduction to Korg, and as well as everybody else's in the comic book sphere. But, you know, the figure looks okay. The head sculpt looks similar to what we saw with the Ragnarok one. It does have pinless technology on the elbows and the legs. It's just that the thing with the legs bothers me. Like, if I can't stand the figure up straight, which is the most basic static pose you can have him in, then that's a problem. So that's why he's posed kind of like this, and that's why in terms of the figures in this wave, I'm not really impressed with him. If I had to rank these figures, though, I'd put Korg last. So we have 8 figures total, including the Build-A-Figure. Korg's off to the corner here. So 8 figures total. If I had to rank it, I would say my favorite figure of this wave, it's going to be a tough one, but I think I really like this Mighty Thor figure. So I have Mighty Thor at number 1, King Valkyrie, at number 2. Number 3, I'd have Gore the God Butcher. And number 4, I would have, you know what, screw it. We'll put this Armored Thor at number 4. And then at number 5, I have Groot. Number 6 is going to be Ravager Thor. And number 7 is going to be Star-Lord. I don't really care for that one. And then number 8, of course, is the Build-A-Figure, just because, whatever. All right, so my overall thoughts on this wave as a whole, I would give this an 8.5 out of 10. And the reason why is I'm a huge MCU fan. So anything MCU Marvel Legends related, I'm all for. I told myself I wouldn't order the whole wave, but then again, it was all MCU stuff, so it was a no-brainer for me. Unlike the Doctor Strange wave and the Spider-Man No Way Home wave, they had a mix of comic book figures and movie figures. If it's a movie figure if it's a wave that's all movie figures, to me that's a win. That's why I really like this line, or this wave, I should say. Everything apart from the Build-A-Figure. I think everything in this line is amazing in my opinion because most of it is brand new sculpting and tooling, except Groot and maybe Korg. I think some of it might have been reuse. But the only thing is, the reason why I give it an 8.5 and not just a perfect 10 out of 10 is I wish some of the figures would have come with more accessories. But then again, I understand there's a budget that has to be had when it comes to making these movie figures. But it's entirely new sculpting and detailing for a majority of them. And the female figures that we have, King Valkyrie and Mighty Thor, have pinless double-jointed elbows. That's awesome to see, especially nowadays. When you think back to where we were a couple years ago, they had single-jointed elbows and they weren't as articulated. And now we're at the point where they're pinless and double-jointed. That's awesome to see. And it's awesome to see the progress of Hasbro, especially with the Photo Real Tech. In my opinion, Tessa Thompson is the best one with King Valkyrie. And I would say probably next is Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, YouTubers. What do you think about this wave? Will you be picking it up? And like always, if you like what you see, be sure to hit that like button. If you haven't already yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, here's Gore out of the box. Let's take a look. God damn it, he can't stand well, that's for damn sure. Jesus Christ.